ta'ala is preparing the atmosphere on earth to receive willingly the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make that happen, especially after they discovered that the cleanliness in the system of Islam is very apparent as compared to other Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is preparing the atmosphere. They also discovered some of the very fine human values in the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So hopefully this will encourage them to have at Al-Islam a second look. Maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to guide them. إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. The last point, very quickly inshallah, this social distancing that we have now and we are obligated to do is a message to those who are sinners, especially among the Muslims. It forced them to be away from the places of fasad, mischief, or sins. The question is this going to discipline the sinners among the Muslim communities, that they would realize that since they are forced to have social distance, are they going to take it upon themselves to have a distance, voluntarily distance between them and the sins against the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We hope this is the case. We hope this is the message that will be taken seriously by all of us Muslims, because all of us are sinners. I think I'll stop here if you have a question. Otherwise, Dr. As-Samrai has a few questions.
Jazakumullah khair, Dr. Shakir. So, yeah, let's go ahead and start with Ramadan during pandemics. So the first question arises typically about fasting while we are sick. We all know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us permission to break the fast if we are sick. But the question here have maybe two different, sub-questions. First is we are dealing with extraordinary disease that the mortality rate is so high. So in normal influenza, maybe, or flu, people may elect to fast despite the sickness, seeking for more reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is it the case here in such a lethal and serious problem like COVID-19? Is the person who exposes himself to fast in Ramadan seeking ajr, is that going to happen? Or on the other hand, he may be gaining ithim by committing haram, by putting himself into a semi-suicide situation. The other question is, there is a controversy whether we need to be overhydrated to protect ourselves from getting the infection for healthy individuals. And I think there is some, I was following some medical publications, and the conclusion was there is no proven evidence that if you fast, you will lower the immune system in a way that may expose you for the infection more than others. So there is some reduction in the immune system in general with intermittent fasting, but not to an extent that threaten an individual for exposing him or herself to infectious diseases. The question arises here: if I'm a healthy individual who is afraid from getting the infection, can I break my fast and just keep drinking water to try to wash the virus from my mouth? So I get these two things, the option of fasting for those who are sick and the option for not fasting for those who are healthy, fearing the disease.
For somebody who is sick, whether by the virus symptoms or by other sickness that makes him eligible to break the fast, so that is well understood in the Sharia. فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرَ. So this is clear. This has nothing to do with the coronavirus. It is by default that by the text of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he may break the fast. But the question is whether you want to take a precautionary what I call precautionary measure to break the fast because you are afraid that through the dryness of your throat, maybe you are inviting the virus. Well, as you have been following this issue, I have also been following that, and I think you and I both watched that scholar from Qatar, an Iraqi scholar that we both know, and he was asked that question, and he said, this particular question is left to the doctors, to the specialized, not to the faqih, to the scholar. Subhanallah, yesterday we received the report from the European Council, especially addressing this issue. And they said they have asked the scholars in medicine and researchers, and they said it is the opposite. Fasting will help your immune system to fight the virus and other diseases, and there is absolutely no proof that it will invite the virus. So for somebody who is healthy, who has no symptoms of coronavirus, he has no excuse to break the fast. Did I understand your first question, or I just brushed it, Brother Mohammed?
Yeah, so the question was, if someone is sick with mild symptoms and the fasting may potentially worsen the situation, can this person fast seeking ajr, or this will be considered as if he is exposing himself to a lethal situation and consequences? Fasting will be haram on him.
Absolutely not. He should break the fast. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. So he should not. وما جعل عليكم في الدين من حرج أخي. So if he has symptoms, absolutely, that is when the virus is at the throat, and the more dryness will probably direct it to the lung, and that's where it loves, rather than the water would push it to the stomach. So if there is any symptoms about that and on that direction, then he must break the fast.
Yeah. Another related question. So for the patients who break their fast during the sickness, are they supposed to give the charity, the fidya, the ransom, or they should make up the fasting after they heal?
Yeah, this is like if they break the fast, then they are in a category of breaking the fast regardless of the reason. So these people are of two categories. They broke the fast because of the sickness that they could recover from. Then these people, they have to make up for similar days. But for elders, for example, who cannot make up the fast because the fast will, hurt them, or for those who have diseases that the doctor said you are not likely to recover from, okay, then these people, they can pay the fidya by feeding one miskin every day for every day they break the fast. I hope this is clear. If it's not clear, I can repeat it, inshallah.
Yeah, it's clear, inshallah. So they have to make up fast days after they cure and recover.
After they recover, inshallah, they will make up for the days that they broke the fast.
Another question about breaking fast during Ramadan. I think this may be a hypothetical question, but was brought up by the European Council, the Fatwa Council in Europe. Is it permissible in Sharia that in such a global pandemic situation, that if we are afraid that if people fast, they may deteriorate, is it permissible that we shift fasting from Ramadan to the Hijjah, for example, or to next year? Can we fast other than Ramadan?
Absolutely not.
No, okay.
Because see, this is the example I wanted to give about the thawabit, the trunks of the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can have different opinions in the branches and the leaves. These are the furu'. But when it comes to the trunk, the pillars of the Sharia, you cannot do that. One of the pillars of the Sharia is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one who is authorized to give you the direction how to worship him and when to worship him.
Yeah.
And if we go to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, he warned us not to mix the fasting of Ramadan in the beginning, not to mix the fasting of the 30th of Sha'ban with the first day of Ramadan.
Yeah.
And also, he made the Sawm of Ramadan of the Eid as haram.
Yeah.
So the Shari', or the one who legislates, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the Prophet ﷺ is talking on behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, made it very clear on us that Ramadan is the one that was aimed for this ibadah. No day before it, no day after it. Both of them are haram to fast. So only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides when and how to worship him. That's why we have no authority to move the fasting of Ramadan into another month. Wallahu a'lam.
I will take it from here just to elaborate a little bit more as introduction to the next question. So you mentioned very beautiful statement and rule here that we have to rethink the concept of worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We worship him in the way that he dictates to us, not the way that we used to or we think to. So for example, we, as you mentioned, let's say that the 30th day of Ramadan will be a Monday. If that Monday will be 30th Ramadan, the worship here is to fast. But if that Monday was the first day of Shawwal, the worship here is to break the fast. It is haram to fast the first day of Shawwal, although it's the same day, it's a Monday, right? So every circumstance has its own act of worship that Allah dedicate on us how to worship him during that time and that period and that place. So in the normal situations, every Ramadan, we used to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the masajids during Taraweeh and Jama'ah and, break fast together and, feed others. But in this situation, in this year, this is a life-threatening situation that if we keep doing what we used to do, we're not only not getting reward, but we may get a punishment because we are threatening ourselves into harming ourselves and harming others. So the worship here will be different. The worship here will be, do your Taraweeh at home, not in the masjid. And that will lead me to the question here. Since we are conducting most of our activities virtually, is it permissible that we pray Taraweeh behind an imam by a Zoom or Facebook or YouTube? Or we have to pray in singular or in Jama'ah with our families? Mm-hmm. Can we pray virtual Jama'ah for Taraweeh?
Yeah, this is a question that was raised many times, and I've been following really what the scholars have been saying throughout the Muslim world and throughout the whole world, really. The answer to this is no, really. We cannot pray Jama'ah, whether it is Jum'ah prayer or Taraweeh prayer or the Eid prayer or the Janazah prayer. We cannot pray them depending on a virtual online connection. Mm-hmm. The reason is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had commanded us to worship him according to what he decides and the time when he decides. But he gave us rukhsa. So this is the first one is the wajib, the obligatory. That's what we used to do for Jum'ah, for example, and Taraweeh, for example, though it is a highly recommended sunnah, but the sunnah of this deen, it has been followed since Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu. But also, when we cannot be physically in the masjid, then we take the rukhsa. And the rukhsa is to either pray at home, but definitely with the coronavirus, we cannot, even if we were to pray at home, we cannot invite our neighbors or our friends to pray with us because that will negate the essence or the same reason why we are doing the social distancing. So we cannot pray Jama'ah through the internet. The other point is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dictated the for example, the Friday prayer. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله. All you who have believed, if the call to the Jum'ah prayer is raised, then haste, come quickly where? To remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and where is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remembered? Usually in the community is in the masjid. So if we cannot do that for Jum'ah, which is more obligatory, then by default, we should not do it for the Taraweeh.
Exactly.
There is a very, very isolated opinion that a brother, that nobody from, no scholar really had indicated, everyone that I know indicated that they could not recognize him. He gave very elaborate details why we should do this kind of worship, jama'ah, through the internet. So as the brothers here, they are aware that there is such opinion, but it is very, very isolated. And maybe they will hear about it during Ramadan. I do not know which city he is, but there is such opinion.
Okay.
But the scholars are in really a very strong agreement, whether it's in Europe or in America. I have also another fatwa from here in America that this is not allowed.
Since you mentioned that, can you put us in perspective how we as Muslim community in America, how is such like fatwas or decisions about such a major Muslim community related topics, how the decisions made? I know that each masjid have their own scholar and there is different, school of thought, but is there any specific council or group of scholars that make decision on behalf of the Muslim community and give fatwas in such critical situation?
In Europe, they have. Here in America, we have more than one. We have the ISNA, and we have the AMJA, I think AMJA, and each they have their own council, and we have another group, but this is not only in America. This is throughout the world, really. And I have the honor to be invited to them, and it took us 2 weeks to discuss this issue, to come up with this opinion. The opinion is the following, that this has never happened before.
Yeah.
That's number one. But the other one, I mean, the fact that it did not happen before, that does not prevent us from making ijtihad. The other point is that we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by applying the wajib, the obligation that He bestowed upon us, or He made it obligatory on us. But also we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with similar reward if we follow His rukhsah, His permission. So they said, why do we have to jump to something that is really very doubtful, and we leave the rukhsah? Doubtful from which respect? They said the imam and the ma'mum, the one who is praying behind and the imam, they have to be physically in a very close area, or very close. Very close means if the masjid is full, then you are allowed to pray in the street, for example, or in a nearby building where you could see by TV, for example, but not through distances, through virtual distances. This is not a jama'ah. The other point, they said, if you do that, definitely you are going to lose the position, the physical position of the imam and the ma'mum. The ma'mum could be in front of the imam when it comes to the qibla. You cannot control that. Because, for example, if I be the imam here, I am here in the southwest, and the brothers in the northeast of Colombia, they will be closer to the qibla than me.
I see.
So this is a minor cause, but the strongest ones are the ones that I just mentioned. So there is an elaboration, there is a discussion. I mean, and it really they did not leave it to one single scholar or mufti to give, but there was an elaborate discussion, especially in the group, alhamdulillah, that I am in.
Jazakallah khair. So I know Dr. Nizam is lifting his hand for a question, maybe related to this topic. But before taking his question, um, just to clarify and try to live in the spirit, not only.
Dr. Nizam has knowledge about other groups. Please come forward.
Yeah, I will mute him in a second, but let me just comment on this question. So I don't like we just focus on the legal perspective and the federal perspective and forget about the spiritual perspective. So we are saying that we cannot pray Taraweeh virtually, but we can still pray Taraweeh at home with our family. And doing so will not reduce our ajr at all, because I think the Prophet ﷺ, in one of his hadith stated in the meaning that if one is prevented from doing the act of worship that he used to do while he is healthy, and he is prevented from doing that because of sickness or any other circumstance, then Allah will reward him the same amount of reward that he used to reward him while he was healthy. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. That's why when I mentioned that we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, applying his obligation, and we worship him with a similar reward when we apply his rukhsah. إن الله يحب أن تؤتى رخصه كما يحب أن تؤتى عزائمه. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves for you to follow the rukhsah exactly as he loves for you to take the azima, the obligation. Each one has its own circumstances. In fact, at one time, the Prophet ﷺ was in a campaign, and it was Ramadan, and just before Maghrib, subhanAllah, and the companions told him that it has become very, very hard. So he asked for a cup of water, and he raised his hand, and he drank it in front of people. And then a few minutes later, the companions came to him and they said, a few of us did not break their fast because they thought the Maghrib is very close and they can make it to Maghrib. So do you know what he labeled them? He said, أولئك العصاة, أولئك العصاة. Those are the sinners, those are the sinners. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would love for you to take his rukhsah, his permission, as he loves for you to take the azima, but each one with its own circumstances, but there is no reduce in the ajr, inshallah. So praying at home Taraweeh, inshallah, will have for us, and Jum'ah to that extent, will have, inshallah, the same reward. For Jum'ah, I do not mean to pray Jum'ah at home. You can do that if you want, but if you pray Dhuhr, inshallah, this is the rukhsah.
So you remind me a quick question about Jum'ah. So if I have a family member, like 3-4 people at home, can I make khutbah and we pray Jum'ah at home, or we have to pray Dhuhr only?
Absolutely, but please do not invite anybody.
Yeah, sure.
There was a question in the ICCM community, yes, and I answered that thoroughly. A sister who has her husband and her adult son. And I dig the books and I found only one scholar, Ibn Hazm, who gave a permission. The school of Abu Hanifa, he gave a permission to 2 male plus the imam, plus the khatib, but not less than that. Ibn Hazm, he said there is no proof, there is no evidence for such restriction. So he said if you have one imam and one ma'mum, both of them are male, that would be enough. So even if he said if you recite one of the surahs on the minbar without a khutbah and then pray 2 rak'ah as Jum'ah, that would be enough.
I will take Dr. Rashid Nizam question, and I want to remind everyone that we are also live on YouTube, alhamdulillah, for the first time, and you can also ask questions on YouTube channel as well. But since you are here, feel free to ask questions. And those who follow us on YouTube, we are still following the questions over there, so feel free to ask. Dr. Nizam, تفضل.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khairan. Jazakallah khairan, Brother Shakir, for elaborating those important, subhanAllah. Well, you said, I think Brother Muhammad asking, then who should we follow? I'm just to get an example. I reminded me in 2002 when I went to Hajj first time, I had the opportunity to sit in front of Sheikh Abdul Aziz, who is the Grand Mufti of Saudi Arabia. I think still is alive. He's a blind man, but mashallah, I asked him, about this thing, like, when you have a problem, especially with the Eid and other, who should you follow? He said very clearly, you should follow your own shuyukh, you should follow your own fiqh council if you have it in North America. So that satisfied that, subhanAllah, we have a North American fiqh council. By the way, I sent a link. They have a meeting tomorrow at the town hall meeting. 4 scholars will be there. And then I think Sheikh Zainab and Sheikh will be at 8 o'clock. Originally I was asking the question that the beginning, say for example, this year what happening, the Thursday will be the 30th of Shaban. Sometimes this is day of doubt, but doesn't apply for those who usually fast on Monday and Thursdays, even though Thursday is the 30th of Shaban. If there's a confusion, so they should be able to fast it, right? There shouldn't have any problem.
Yes, I am sorry I did not comment about what Dr. Muhammad said. If it is your habit to fast Monday and or Thursday, and this Monday or Thursday falls as the 30th of Sha'ban, then go ahead and fast it, inshallah.
Okay. Yes.
If that falls in the Eid day, no, you cannot.
No,
you cannot
correct.
fast.
No, I know, no problem with that. But beginning of that was a question.
Yes.
And also the other thing, the scholars are saying now, and what you told Brother Muhammad, that 3 or 4, if you're home, you can still pray Jummah. But I don't know, the scholars are saying, some of them here, and I had the lectures, that it's okay, that was not the spirit of Jummah. Jummah is a communal prayer. You should come in the masjid. Since that's not happening, you should pray Dhuhr home with the family. You can pray Jama'ah, but Dhuhr, don't do the Jummah. So I don't know. So what do you think? If we pray Dhuhr, will it be violating the obligation? Or?
Okay, Jazakallah khair. No, brother. I have been praying Dhuhr, brother. The sister asked me a question where she has her husband and her adult son, and she did not want to lose the ajr of Jum'ah. She is really in her heart to do that. So I could not prevent her from doing that, because I had to exert my effort to dig for an opinion. So I found Ibn Hazm with that opinion. But before Ibn Hazm, the school of Abu Hanifa, radiyallahu an, and rahimahullah, he had that opinion, but not 2, including the Imam, 3, including the Imam. Because there is no evidence. There is no evidence about the number of the Jama'ah. Some schools, they say 50 people. Some schools, they say 40, 20, 12, but they really have absolutely no evidence. That's why Ibn Hazm said, okay, Jama'ah, so 2 will be fine. But you are okay, brother Nizam? You do not have to pray Jum'ah at home, pray Dhuhr, inshallah. This is the rukhsah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from all, inshallah.
Dr. Shakir, would you mind raising the volume from your side, from the computer? Some brothers complain that your sound is low a little bit. Make it as high as you can. Anyways, there was a question.
That was okay.
I hear you well. I hope Brother Muhammad will hear you well as well. Okay, there might be some advanced audio setting by Zoom that I cannot adjust at this point.
So I'll be closer, inshallah, to the machine.
Galaxy Note 9 raise his or her hand, and I'm going to unmute to see the question. Although we stated the statement that we prefer that everyone join us should have his or her actual name, not nicknames like this. But let's go ahead and see who is Galaxy Note 9. Introduce yourself and ask a question. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. This is Sheikh Ibrahim.
Oh, mashallah. Welcome, brother. I sent you the link the last second, subhanallah.
Yes, I did get it. Just one quick question. I think I put it in writing. Do we know when Ramadan starts? Because usually we follow ISNA and, they have everything set up. And if we are following them, I have asked this question many times. What is the rationale for following them?
That may not be for me the question, but I really have not checked their website but I checked it a few months ago. I think it would be Friday. If somebody else knows, please correct me, but that is what I know. And for the logic or the reason why we are following them, this has been the tradition. And as the brother Nizam said, when he asked the Mufti in Saudi Arabia, he told him it's best to follow the scholars in your own locality regarding these issues, which I really agree with him totally. Otherwise, it would be a chaos that every masjid will go his own way. Otherwise, it will really be obligatory on us to observe the crescent and decides maybe which day of Ramadan starts. We used to do that maybe 20, 30 years back, I remember, and Brother Samuel remembers that. We used to go to the physics department at the roof. They have an observatory, and they kindly allowed us to use it. And we saw the crescent, and we practiced that many years. Alhamdulillah. But now it is up to the community leadership to decide. But this has been the tradition, and I do not see why we should break that, inshallah. After all, ISNA has their own scholars, and all are respected, alhamdulillah. And at least if they make a mistake, it is on them, not on us.
Yeah, I think this is a very big topic. I think it may need only a separate day to discuss the difference in the matali' and how the months. How about paying zakat al-fitr, the charity, by the end of Ramadan, sooner than later? You know, the tradition is that you give up food, or its equivalent to the food is preferred. But now, as we are facing crisis in many aspects, many people are losing their jobs. They may need some food assistance. They may need some cash money to pay their rent, their utilities. Is it permissible that we, number one, give the zakat al-fitr in cash, not in food? Number two, can we give it early rather than later to help those who are in immediate need for this type of assistance?
See, zakat al-fitr, according to the sunnah, is to be given food. Mm-hmm. And even when we give money to organizations, those organizations, as far as I know, they go and buy food in the locality where the poor are eligible and distribute the food there. So this is the sunnah. If you want to give money, there is a unique or an isolated opinion about that, but the precaution is, how do you know how this money is going to be spent? That is the really issue. Zakat al-fitr is different from the other form of zakah or charities. Zakat al-fitr is to make the poor, especially, it is not the 8 categories of those who are eligible for the zakah. This is specifically for the poor people, to make them happy in the day of Eid. And if they misuse the money, then you miss that opportunity of the essence of zakat al-fitr. Zakat al-fitr is to be given the night of the Eid. In fact, most precisely between the Fajr and before the Khatib starts. But the Ash-Shafi'i rahmatullah alayhi extended that 2 days before the Eid, and some other scholars, because if they want to send it to somewhere else, or for logistic difficulties for the masjid to collect the zakah and redistribute them, zakat al-fitr, I mean. So there is a permission to give it even at the beginning of Ramadan, inshallah.
Okay, so the question
I cannot pass a fatwa for the money unless those who are distributing the money, they know exactly the receiving hand, and they know exactly they are not going to be misusing it for tobacco or for any other unlawful venues.
So that may lead me to ask you about our masjid policy in distributing zakat al-fitr in the past. Do they collaborate with food banks? Do they buy food and distribute them manually? How did the previous zakat al-fitrs distributed?
No, we do not give it to the food bank. If we were to give to the food bank, we would give it from the general charity, not from the zakah, because the non-Muslim is not eligible for the zakah, let alone the zakat al-fitr. And as far as I know, Brother Sami probably knows better, that we have probably few individuals in the community who know the poor people and who trust they are going to use and not misuse of the money, and they are going to distribute. So I think this system is in place, alhamdulillah. And I personally trust that, though I have so many poor in my own country back home, I usually send that there. And it is permissible to do that if you have poor, especially your relatives, because you will get double the reward of the kinness, the relationship, and the reward of the charity, inshallah. May Allah accept from all.
So I'm glad that Dr. Dweik is raising his hand. I want to ask him to comment about this and to tell us how will zakat al-fitr be distributed this year. What is the policy of the masjid to distribute zakat al-fitr, inshallah? Dr. Majid Dweik. Unmute. Yes, sir. Do you hear me? Assalamu alaikum.
Unmute. So can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Dweik.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullah khair for the great, talk and discussion. So just quickly about zakat al-fitr. So our normal procedure, so we collect zakat al-fitr throughout the month of Ramadan, and we ask the community to pay it early. Then we have a committee and we collect names. So there are certain individuals also responsible for collecting names of individuals and families. And we tend to start to distribute zakat al-fitr around the 20th of Ramadan. So just to allow those families and individuals to get their needs. And there are also calculated amount per person. So if or family member when we distribute that fund. But we tend to collect zakat al-fitr all the way right before the Salat al-Eid. And we, as I said, we encourage the community members to pay that ahead of time, so it can reach to those individuals who we have identified. So that's basically the norm that we have been practicing for quite some time. It's been, alhamdulillah, very successful. And also what we do, if there is surplus, so as I mentioned, there are some who pay right before Salah, so we tend to go back and redistribute the additional fund. So it's been successful by distributing all of it on time, alhamdulillah.
Dr. Shakir, I have a question here. How much zakat al-fitr will be this year per individual, per family?
Usually ISNA decides that, and for the last few years, as long as I remember, it used to be $7, but for many years it became $10. They did not change it, and I do not see a reason why they changed it. But they will probably announce it eventually. If Dr. Nizam knows anything about that topic, probably he can. But in general, it is $10.
Okay. So again, answering my question, zakat al-fitr is dedicated to be delivered as food, even though if we pay zakat in cash. And that money cannot be given as cash for those who need the money at this point, whether like paying bills, medical supplies, healthcare workers, donation for hospital supplies. This is not permissible for zakat al-fitr.
No, not for zakat al-fitr. And you cannot pay it now. This is not zakat al-fitr. It has to be after the khatib finishes his khutbah.
Before.
Well, before, I'm sorry, before, yes, before.
Yeah, but you said.
Yeah, before. Before, after that, it would be just general charity.
Yeah, but I mean.
Not before Ramadan.
Yeah, I mean, during Ramadan, let's say the first week of Ramadan, we encourage the community to give their zakat al-fitr so we can dedicate this zakah for those who need the cash at this point. This is not a plan, right?
They need the cash. It has to be for the day of Eid and for food. That is, if you want to give them for rent or for other necessities, it has to be from the general charity.
So that will maybe bring a quick question. If person used to give zakat al-mal, the charity, the zakah annually, let's say in January.
Yes.
Next year, can I pay it sooner than later to handle this process?
Zakatul mal, you can pay it up to 2 lunar years in advance.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
But even if I paid my zakat, let's say the past January, 2 months, 3 months ago, I still able to pay for next year.
For next year, you can pay zakatul mal. Yes.
Okay.
Especially at this dire need, maybe this is one of the things that we really need to consider also. You do not have to pay all of it, but according to the urgency, you can pay portion, and you can, because you never know what will happen. I mean, things could become even worse.
Yeah. Dr. Dweck, I think he has a comment about this. I'm trying to unmute him, but okay. Yeah, here we go. Dr. Dweck, we can hear you.
Yes. So just to elaborate on the other type of fund that we have at the ICCM, we have an account for sadaqah, and we have an account for zakah that the masjid collect, and some of the community members pay into those accounts. So we have been actually, since the crisis has started, we have received applications. We have a committee, like ad hoc committee, that view those applications and immediately, approve them based on the condition. So that fund is dispersed based on the need. So if there is, it's related to rent. So the ICCM, once it is approved, the ICCM will issue a check to the landlord, so to be paid. If it is respect to food, then a gift card can be extended out. So we have a mechanism, and also the committee determine whether this person qualify for sadaqah or zakah. So, and as well as we have another fund. So sometimes we receive requests where the person does not want sadaqah or zakah, but what they want is an assistant, a loan where they will just pay it back over a period of time. And we have done that too. So I've been asking the committee, the community, if they know of anyone, or if there is anyone, they can, they don't need to publicize, they can immediately connect with me directly, and we'll walk them, through that process. And as I said, we try to do it very fast. So because we understand when they come with a need. But we have those 3 avenues at the ICCM and the 3 mechanisms at the ICCM to help community members. And alhamdulillah, it's been working very well for a long time.
It seems this topic of zakah brought many questions. So I know if we open the zakah discussion, it will take additional hour. I want Dr. Shakir to summarize in 5 minutes. What is the portion of the zakah? How percentage it is from the money? How would you calculate that in a year, in months? Just quick estimate, how can we run our zakah calculation? What type of wealth that eligible for zakah?
Well, that of course depends, but let us assume that there is no cattle, there is no businesses, there is nothing, no stocks.
Employee receive like $2,000 paycheck a month, let's say, or let's say $100,000 per year. This is the gross income.
Let us say $100,000 a year. That is the gross income. and you pay your zakah in Ramadan, because the zakah follows the lunar calendar, not the solar calendar. So in Ramadan, let us say 15th day of Ramadan, that is when you calculate your zakah. So out of this 100,000, you spend whatever you spend for your house, for your food, for your family, for your education, for your vacation, for your schooling, whatever, and then you are left in your bank under your control, let us say $20,000. You spend $80,000. This is not zakah. This is zakah exempt, has no zakah against it. So this $20,000, you multiply it by 0.025. Okay. So
0.25. 2.5%.
2.5%. So from each $1,000, you have $25. So you have $500 zakah of the $20,000, and you pay it in that day of Ramadan, the 15th day of Ramadan or the first day. It depends when you pay your zakah usually.
Okay.
So that is how. Yes.
Even though that sometimes, like, my monthly payments reduced in the bank to a zero, and then the other month I may save a few $100. So this $20,000 that left in my bank at the end of the year, it is not actually a constant 20,000 for the entire year. It increases and decreases during the months based on my payments.
If you have this situation, if you have a salary that comes to you, and maybe in the middle of the year, you have some dire need where you really spend everything. The scholars, they have two different opinions.
Okay.
One of them, they said you resume your hawl, they call it hawl, which is the lunar year. You resume it from when it is the threshold, which is the nisab. The nisab is equivalent to 85 grams of gold. So you just go to ask Sheikh Google, how much is the gram of gold, and multiplied by 85. It's probably $3,000. I have not really checked it for months now. If you reach 3,000 and above, then count from that day. However, the most accepted opinion in this, especially if you have a salary, is that it will not hurt if you go back to zero, since your income is going to come, and eventually in 2-3 months, you will pick up and will reach $20,000. So, and in Ramadan 15, you have a $20,000, then you still pay zakah against the $20,000, even if you had fallen during the year to zero.
So I just look at during 15 Ramadan, look at how much I have in my bank and just pay zakah based on that.
Absolutely, yes. In the 15th, if the zero is in the 15th day of Ramadan, provided that you did not do that intentionally, because you can play games with anybody except playing games with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So
How about,
if it is zero, it is zero.
How about if spend the $80,000 spent during the year? If there is unnecessary expenditure, like if I went for leisure travel, for example, in the year, or like have fun with the family, for example, and spend money that is not necessarily spent, for example, is that considered significant to lower my threshold to pay zakah from?
See, that depends upon the person. When I say your vacation, provided that you did not go to really a very luxurious vacation just to spend the money of the zakah, because this portion of the zakah, this is not your money. You are not doing a favor in giving that money. This is the right of the poor or the other 7 categories that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has designated. But as a professional, you and your family who work very hard, probably you need a break during the year, and a break that is very reasonable, you know. So you go and take the family. This is part of the 80,000, but not the one that is that is breaking the norms. This is very, and of course, everyone has his own scale in his heart. Whether this is an intentionally breaking the threshold of the zakah to run away from the zakah or not. If this is discovered by an Islamic entity at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the result is that he should pay double the zakah. At the time of the Prophet, yes. If he discovers somebody who is doing this game to run away from the zakah, of course, إنما الأعمال بالنيات, the deeds are but by intention, but if it's proven that the intention was to run away from the zakah, the Prophet ﷺ would take double the zakah from that person. Yes, but as I said, the intention is very, very important. And remember, it is better to be lenient against yourself and in the benefit of the poor person or the hand that is receiving the zakah. The 2.5%, brothers and sisters, is the minimum, is the absolute minimum. So suppose that maybe you or your wife or your kid, they have a bottle here and bottle there, maybe in a cabinet or on the ceiling that you do not know about. So instead of paying the zakah against the 20,000, the example that we took, so make it against the 30,000, just in case if your wife had a bottle somewhere.
Okay. Yeah. So this will lead us to another question brought by your son Abdurrahman about this luxurious vacation that we spoke about. If one have actual taqwa, he or she may consider what he spent on this vacation as zakah eligible money and add that to the 20,000 and make zakah on this.
That is open, absolutely. Abdurrahman is a faqih before he is a faqih. MashaAllah. Jazakallah khair, Abdurrahman. Yes, this is open. Be generous with those 8 categories. Yes.
I just want to clarify because one of the brothers has confusion. Here we are talking about zakatul mal, which is one of the 5 pillars of Islam, which is due every year, and it is 2.5% of your wealth. This is different from what we just spoke about with zakatul fitr, which is the charity given in Ramadan, which is equal to $10 per person per family. So if you have a family of 4, you pay $40 before the end of Ramadan, inshallah. We already passed 1 hour. And I don't see any questions more in the chat box here or on the YouTube channel as well. So I would like to thank Dr. Shakir for this beautiful session. Well, before doing that, just a quick comment about the way we spend our zakat, since we spoke about that really quick. We know we dedicate our zakat basically for the poor and needy, but now there is a lot of needs in like hospital supplies, medicine, people in nursing homes need essentials, not only poor people. Is it permissible that we pay our zakah under the title of Fi Sabilillah for these tools?
The answer is no. Because for the zakah is ibadah that requires intention. Deeds are but by intention, and also requires to know how the Shari', Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the legislator, told us to perform that ibadah. So he told us clearly there are 8 categories to disperse the zakah to. The non-Muslims are not eligible for the zakah. We can give them from the charity, the general charity. The scholars, when they talk about zakah, they always have a supplement chapter at the end, the title of which is هل في المال حق سوى الزكاة? In your wealth, is there any other right, or is there any right other than the zakah on you or on your wealth? And the answer anonymously is yes. When there is a need in the community or in the country or in the society, when there is a need where the zakah is not enough to meet the minimum standard of living, the 5 necessities for the people. They have the right in the food, in the shelter, in the clothing, in the education, in even getting married. These necessities are there for everyone who lives under the Islamic rule. So under the Islamic rule, there is no homeless. Abdurrahman showed me a picture today about the homeless in Los Angeles, where the city had dispersed them in the parking lot and designated these social distances. And he told me at the time where all the hotels are empty, they could really occupy that. So the hospitals and any other need in the society has to be given from the general charity, not from the zakah.
Isn't it part of fi sabilillah?
Huh? No, not for that. Fi sabilillah is for the jihad and for gaining knowledge and for the da'wah. These are the two, the gaining knowledge and the da'wah came with fatwas. The default, if you go to the schools of fiqh, the default originally for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fi sabilillah, is for the jihad. But since there is no jihad now, they said the jihad could be interpreted in gaining knowledge and disperse that knowledge, or inviting people. So that's why accordingly, all these Islamic schools in the West or outside the Muslim world are zakah eligible. All Islamic centers to that extent, because they are making da'wah, they are also zakah eligible, inshallah, but not the hospitals. In our case now, the answer is no, inshallah.
I don't like to argue about this, but I mean, definitely I have no knowledge compared to you, but I think this can be discussed further. Anyways, we'll stop here, inshallah.
Are you talking about hospitals here locally?
Yeah.
Are they in need?
Yeah, there is a huge shortage, and people are supporting hospitals now with supplies and personal protective devices and masks and gowns. And
I advise everyone from this group and from our community to help our construction project.
Jazakallah khair.
This is our priority.
We'll come to it, inshallah.
Inshallah, we can discuss it further, inshallah.
Jazakumullah khair. I would like to thank Dr. Shakir for his beautiful.
There is one point I want to share with you. The Salat al-Ghaib, there are rumors in the social media that every Friday after Maghrib do Salat al-Ghaib, assuming that not enough people had prayed Ghaib. This is very close to a bid'ah. If you want to do it, you can do it, but please don't designate a day in the week, for example, every Friday. So this is one thing. The other thing is, I advise everyone to make a wasiyyah, to make a will, because you do not know really. I mean, today they discovered 7,000 elders died without their families know about them. On a Tuesday, we are going to discuss this topic, but please take that as serious as you can. Jazakumullahu khairan, and Dr. Muhammad, inshallah, is going to close.
Barakallah feek. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and we'll take it from your mouth here about wasiyah and the will, and to remind you that we are having a very interesting session and workshop happening this coming Tuesday at 8 p.m. inshallah. We're going to have Dr. Shakir, our very own Dr. Shakir Hamoodi, and attorney Jason Simmons from Cripps and Simmons law firm, who is specialized in the East States, and we are going to cover the death planning and the will from both Islamic and legal perspective, and how one can be prepared in planning the wealth and children, childcare, and family situations after one's pass away, God forbid. And tomorrow, inshallah, we are having an interesting session in the morning as well. At 10 a.m., we are going to have Brother Zahir Arusto, who is the head of Legacy International Online High School, which is the first Islamic online high school combined with Dr. Seema Imam, who is the chair of the Islamic School League of America, ISLA. They will both talk about tips for homeschooling during COVID-19 pandemic and beyond, since many of us found themselves to be teachers besides being parents stuck at home with their children. We're going to learn from the experts in Islamic education how to handle the new role of being homeschool, like teacher at home. Tomorrow as well at 9 p.m. we'll have Dr. Umrewid in the Islamic history session. And Sunday morning at 10 a.m. we have the Quran halaqa with Imam Musbahu for Quran recitation, inshallah. And last but not least, there will be a community like town hall event announcing Ramadan activities and what will be the masjid's policy during Ramadan. This will happen on Thursday, inshallah, the night before Ramadan starts at 9 p.m. Stick around with all our communication tools, WhatsApp groups, the ICM website, the email newsletter, the YouTube channel, and the Facebook page. All these announcements will be posted there to stay connected, inshallah. Try to make your maximum effort to increase the participants in these events, calling your friends, your neighbors, whoever need to reach out. You know, in Ramadan, we expect many people who never come to the masjid other than Ramadan. So Ramadan is the only chance for them to come. And now our doors are closed. We are hoping that we, through this platform of virtual meetings, we can increase the participation and get people's questions answered and covered, inshallah. So please share the information and the links and the messages with your friends and colleagues. I pray everyone will stay safe, inshallah, and we'll see you all tomorrow morning, inshallah. Jazakum khair. Subhanak Allahumma bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Jazakum khair for joining us. See you tomorrow morning. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.